tactically speaking, I'm happy to have my friends play whatever side they want. Jaegers, Kaiju, just to get Pacific Rim Extinction on the table. But if you're going to give me a choice, as of right now, I really have been enjoying playing the Kaiju, especially Hakuja on there. We're looking at Wave 1 right now. I've pushed up to my archive, my YouTube channel, under the playlist Pacific Rim Extinction, mission-specific focus for each of the models, looking at the power cards, looking at specific tactics for each model, asking the question, or at least starting to build that checklist, what does it do really well? What is the weaknesses? What are the strengths? And from there, starting to layer in your play style, starting to build your team. But I also now wanted to push up, independent of play style, some core tactica, 3 or 4 points to keep in mind for each faction that is going to determine how you pull off those abilities. Now, terrain, as with any war game, and Pacific Rim's a little bit misleading. It's a miniatures game, and misleading in a good way. Miniatures game, epic scale, heroic scale, pre-painted, but it is a war game on there. So deployment is key, positioning is key, and going in with a game plan is really, really important. Now, based on the size of the gaming map, I'm using the one that's prepackaged with the starter set on there, but ultimately you could play on a much larger table or a much smaller table. The map size as it exists right now means if you're a Kaiju player, there's going to be maybe 1 or 2 turns, again, modified by the mission, before you can get into range to start smashing those mechs. You're going to need to have an approach. And while the Kaiju have both shooting and close assault ability, for obvious reasons, they tend to favor close assault. They tend to be more powerful in the assault. So this leads to the natural strategy to ask the question, okay, how do we get up there and smash face? Because certainly your opponent, the Jaeger player, they're not just going to stand by. They're going to try and stop you on there. If you play on a bigger gaming table, then if the terrain is not more dense, this is going to make things much, much harder to play. If you play on a smaller table for some reason, the balance of power really shifts in the favor of the Kaiju. You almost want to take away a little bit of terrain. So the core set seems to be the balance of the two. And naturally, in exploring your miniatures, you want to play on bigger tables. You maybe want to play on smaller tables. Don't let the table size, if you're going to the gaming club or you're part of a group, don't let that dictate the play or not. Just be ready to adapt. So with the terrain, what we're looking to do is place the terrain that we can so we have an approach to the center of the table. The Kaiju, they want to get to the center of the table because from there they can radiate out. That radiate out might be I run across the table because you're on the opposite side of the deployment zone and I box you in and smash face. But generally speaking, if I can get to the center of the table without getting lit up effectively by shooting for that first turn, then I'm able to radiate out and leverage that. So what we see is this idea of occupying the table, a threat bubble. Now with this hex-based movement, Kaiju have a little bit more mobility despite of their massive size on there. They are, as in the movies, are a little bit more nimble than the mechs. So by being in the center of the table with my ability to pivot, this is going to create what's called in wargaming a threat bubble. This is going to allow you in potentially 1 turn of movement, unless the Jaeger force is really backed up against the edges of the table, the gaming mat, to be in there smashing. Mission objective placement is also key if you have control over it. Using it to draw your opponent in. So let's, of course, you're working as a team. You can play one versus one, but I enjoy, and I think as of right now for Wave 1, Wave 2 can't get here fast enough. We need maximum Jaegers and maximum Kaiju on the table, like 8 or 9 on each side, just packing it in there. But for now, I think 3 is the magic number. 3 is kind of the secret sauce because it gives you some combos. It's going to allow you to build a team with pilots or mutations. And if you do lose a model, yes, absolutely, model loss is huge in any war game, in any miniatures game, but you can still pull off a win on there. Imagine this position setup. I've got my Kaiju. You've got a Jaeger to the left and to the right, kind of far over on there. I'm going to run on the way in. Let's just pull terrain off the table for a second. Just pull that out. I'm going to run in and try and smash one of them on there. I'm going to try and smash the weaker one. Generally speaking, you go after the weaker stuff on the table simply because it is a dice-based game. Now, there's ways to manipulate. There's ways to manipulate the dice through triggers and other abilities, spending some of that Kaiju juice to jack up or spending extra ammo or a charge if you're a Jaeger. But essentially, with the dice on there, even with the defensive blocks, you might roll legendary. So if I go against a heavier Jaeger, a more powerfully armored Jaeger on there, I might damage it. I might get lucky and damage it a little bit more. The randomness of the game, embracing the dice gods on there, wants to favor going after the weaker target. Now, hopefully the Jaeger player will have a screening mech on there, maybe have some terrain in the way. But for this scenario, given the choice, left Jaeger's weak, right is a little bit stronger. I'm going to run to the left and try and smash its face in, literally rip its head off. I'm going to take some fire from both on the way in because I can't be in two places at the same time. If I destroy that first weaker Jaeger, I'm probably going to be so weak and messed up, I'm going to have a hard time running, taking another round of fire to the second Jaeger on there. How can you pull your opponent? Here's another way of thinking about it. If they're all the way on the other side of the gaming table, I'm literally going to have to cross the gaming table to do that on there, especially if it's a bigger size. If I can, through positioning, place some mission objectives and cause the mech team to, instead of castling up their deployment zone, come out, at least meet me midway in the table or go for those mission objectives, that makes it double my speed. In essence, that makes it much easier for me to cross the table. So I really have to think ahead of time based on the mission, based on the terrain. I don't want to be running after the Jaegers. I want to pull them towards the center of the table. That's where I'm going to meet because I can cross to the center of the table really fast and from there radiate out. That's the approach. That's the approach vector on there. And of course, the science of it is a war game. Pulling that off on the table, minimizing your losses, minimizing the influx of the dice. I mean, those are all important skills just to kind of work on and figure out. And then, of course, how you are exactly going to smash mech face, that's going to depend on the mutations. That's going to depend on the pieces that you're taking, the Kaiju that you're taking. We're going to layer in and over that second series of the Tactica. That's my approach plan. And that's the approach plan that I've noticed has worked. Now, I guess in all fairness, and I do enjoy playing the Jaegers also, so we have to definitely cover them and explore some of the observations that I've had with them.